Hello my friends, and welcome to Tom's Tinkering and Adventures. So yesterday I ended up hanging out with my buddy for a while, worked on my motorcycle a little bit, and if you watched my video yesterday, I got another project in the garage here. And then after that, I was busy entertaining guests all afternoon and evening. I made some Chicago deep dish pizza, which turned out really good. I don't know if anyone, of course, if you're from Chicago, you probably love it. If you're from New York, that's the only good pizza. And if you're from elsewhere, well, maybe you have opinions one way or the other, but I thought it turned out really good. My wife and I were in Chicago about a month ago, so it was the first time I ever had it. So I decided to make it. But I will make a video on that because it turned out pretty good and it wasn't hard to make. So if you do like Chicago style pizza, stay tuned. Probably a couple weeks from now, I'll make a video on how I made it, and it turned out great, I thought. I also talked about my motorcycle forks on my Yamaha Super 10 array. Yesterday they started leaking again, and I had the fork seals on order, and as soon as I got home, the beautiful Amazon lady had delivered my Shocks socks, which are basically just kind of like a neoprene piece that slides over the forks. Anyway, I'll show you how that works when I get to doing them forks, when the parts show up. So on the agenda today in the garage is to move this beautiful hog off the ramp here. We're gonna get started on this machine here. A friend of mine, his neighbor, has been trying to get a hold of me for quite some time to work on this motorcycle. It's a Honda Shadow Sabre, and it's been sitting. It kind of runs if you have the choke on and you keep it revved up. So my initial thoughts on it are that, of course, it's probably carburetors need to be taken off and cleaned. So I will walk us through that step. And also these tires, he said, are original, and yeah, they're due to be changed. So I got a set of brand new tires also. So let's move some of these items that move under their own power, and some of these items that don't move under their own power. We'll get them out of here. And if you're new to my channel, thank you very much. I see that I'm over 200 subscribers. Yeah, I appreciate your support. Hope you enjoy watching. I try to have a little bit of fun in my garage here, and you know, I do all kinds of different stuff. So stay tuned. If what I'm doing now ain't your cup of tea, I'll be doing something else that probably ain't your cup of tea either. It's a pretty sharp looking bike. Honda Shadow Sabre. Got it up on the lift here. Makes working on it much easier because this is right at eye level for me now. Well, here, there, that's right behind my eyes. So this is at chest level, so much more comfortable working on it standing up instead of crouching over a motorcycle. If you work on motorcycles and you don't have one of these lifts, try to make room and get one. I put it off for a long time getting one. I'm really glad I did. This is the Harbor Freight model. There's lots of them out there. This one is okay. It's not the best one. I got a really good deal on this. I bought it secondhand off of Craigslist. So, oh, one other thing I forgot to mention we'll be doing on this is changing the rear final drive unit oil. He said he couldn't get this off of here, and you can see it's been ground on a bit. We'll see what we can do to get that off. But in order to get to the carburetors, the seat's got to come off and the tank's got to come off. I'll knock that out. We'll come back on video, and we'll show you where we're at. Different motorcycles always provide different challenges. So getting the tank and the seat off of this thing was very easy, but you can see the carburetors are jammed up underneath here between the twin cylinder engine and then underneath this frame rail. So I'm going to have to start removing all these different hoses and labeling them. Take off this air boot that goes down. It actually uses the frame top tube and goes to the air box. So I'm going to have to take that off, and then I'll have to see. Hopefully these things will come up and out. There's where they mount to the cylinder. This is the front cylinder's carburetor. The other one's on the other side. So they're always fun. So let me start taking some stuff off and we'll come back to you and see how that looks. So from the look of my hands, I should be getting something done here. We removed the fuel line right here. Choke, 2 carburetors, 1 on each side. Actually had to remove a coolant line, and the coolant looks like total crap. See that? We'll have to flush that for them. Got the throttle cables off. Got the air inlets off. Same thing on this side. Choke, fuel line, some of the emissions breather stuff. And the carburetor is loose. Never tried to do this with one hand, but now we have to figure out the little puzzle that it is getting this out, because part of the fun of this is that the back carburetor goes in at that angle and the front one goes in at that angle, and they're not too, oops, oh, I almost dropped the damn ramp on me here like I had the safety bar in it. They are connected in the center here. So they're not 2 separate carburetors. There's a linkage. See, the linkage attaches to that one. So I am going to pry on this thing a little bit. And I'll probably do it off video because I try to keep this thing at a minimum PG-13. And usually something like this, you start inventing new words. So you got to get creative with new words. We'll see how she goes. When in doubt, just get a bigger tool. So just a little bit of force, just a little bit of leverage, and carburetors are loose. And now, how do they come out of there? I don't know. Let's see if we can zoom in on this picture for you a little bit. Now, sometimes they're kind of in here like a puzzle. It kind of fits out this side. Doesn't look like it'll fit out this other side at all. And this is where you start questioning the engineers who built this thing. Like, what the hell were they thinking? They're supposed to pull the carburetors out the top? For real? Alright, so hopefully we remember how these go back in, because it looks like it's a puzzle. But there they are. Let's move them over. Oh, that's too close. Pinch it. There you go. Make it smaller. We'll move them over to the workbench. We'll take them apart there. Anytime a motorcycle sits, well, especially an old carbureted motorcycle, if it sits for even like 6 months, today's fuels are formulated in such a fashion that they tend to varnish up pretty quickly. And the parts inside of these carburetors are very small. So if it sits for about even 3 months, I've seen it, but excuse me with the camera there, 6 months or so will do it. The small passages inside the carburetor down here in the float bowl where the jets are, they will start to varnish and clog up, and then your motorcycle won't run very good. Like it won't idle, or maybe it'll idle and it won't accept throttle, or it'll only run on choke. And that pretty much means that you need to do a fuel system cleaning, which on a carbureted bike means that the carburetors really need to come out. You could try to use fuel system cleaner, but it's kind of like playing the lottery. Somebody wins, so you might win, but chances are you're not going to. What I have up against me now is to take these things completely apart as far as I can take them apart, and then I am going to give them a bath in my ultrasonic cleaner right here. And then I will reassemble everything and then put this back on the bike, and she should be running like a beautiful new Honda again. The teardown and the ultrasonic cleaning is not the most exciting thing in the world, So all I'm going to do is show you this part. I'll show you when I got it taken down, and I'll show you when I get the parts out of here. All right, well, I just pulled the first float bowl off, so I'm gonna give you all a little view of what you're looking for in here. So like I said, I'm not gonna show you the entire disassembly of this. Hopefully you can see this. See this gunky crap right here, and how this is all tarnished and black and kind of green looking. That is what happens when fuel sits in a vehicle for too long. Now this motorcycle, he said it was parked for a couple of years, and I actually think this might be a little bit less than a couple of years, but sometimes you get lucky. But since the passages are so small in these carburetors, this is your pilot, or idle jet they might call it, which controls how the motorcycle idles when the fuel goes through there. When they start getting a little bit gunky and messed up like that, that's when your motorcycle will no longer idle, or it'll only run on choke, or it won't accept throttle when you try to give it throttle. And it's the same for almost any small engine, lawnmower, anything with a small engine. Cars, you get a little bit luckier on those because the passages are larger in the carburetors. And if you have a fuel injected vehicle, well then chances are you're not going to have this issue as much either, although fuel injectors do get clogged. It's not quite the same as a carburetor, which the fuel is sitting in these float bowls. The fuel sits in here, which then these are sitting in, and as the fuel starts to evaporate a little bit, it turns more and more to varnish. I'm going to continue taking this apart. I have my fancy mechanics. You know, mechanics like to eat a lot of country crock ice cream and sherbet and potato salad, so that I have containers to put pieces in. So that's how you build a mechanic's body. Here's a quick look at these items before they go into the ultrasonic bath over here. I already just set the carburetor bodies in here. This thing works, you just set the time. And I have a mixture of pine sol and water in there. And we'll run it several times. Biggest thing I have an issue with on this thing is that it's just not big enough for a full set of carburetors. It'd work good on a single or a dual carburetor, but if you have a set of 4, they won't fit, and of course it's not deep enough. But for these little parts, it works good. And for single or dual carburetors like this, it works okay. You soak half of it and then flip it over. And always remember, safety third. There it is, after doing a soak in the ultrasonic cleaner. Everything looks a little bit nicer to be working with now. We're going to put the carburetor back together, squeeze it back into that machine there. I might have to watch the video to see how it came out. And we'll get it back in and see how she runs. In the meantime, while I was waiting for the ultrasonic, of course I had some lunch, and I changed out this final drive. Got this off very easily. I used a very large vice grip, got it off. It was probably over tightened. People tend to get a little bit crazy on these things, over tighten them. But now it will come off with a crescent wrench or whatever, since it's already been ground down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to recommend to the owner of this to purchase a new cap, and we'll just change that out. It's really easy, and it's probably not too expensive. In fact, I'll look it up and I'll let you all know how much it costs. We're back in one piece here, all fresh and clean, and smells like a men's restroom at a gas station with that pine sol. Now here's something I like to use: white lithium grease, or even really any sort of lubrication, to get these things, follow this thing over here, to get these things back in here. They got to go into these rubber boots, and you can kind of see here, hopefully you can see, we're at opposing angles. That one's got to go that way, that one's got to go that way, and then pushing down in. And so with a little bit of lubrication on it, I should be able to slide it on in there. But let me reposition this thing and maybe we can get a view of me fumbling with this. I'm not sure how good of a view y'all are gonna have there, but let's see how this looks. Now, I know we saw him come out of here, so I have to go back in. Look at that, would you? They're actually pretty close. And this is where the opposing angles I was talking about really fight me. I got this one on, just started. Excuse me a second here. There we go. Bike looks like it's leaning a little bit. We're gonna tie it down a little bit more. And now this one is off just enough where it's a pain. And if you read a manual, it'll just say, install carburetors. It never ever says that you have to invent new curse words and skin your knuckles. So, manuals are great, but they don't always get everything. So, let's stop the video here because it's going to take me about 5 or 10 minutes and you don't need to watch all that. About 30 seconds after I took the camera off, y'all, this thing just kind of popped right into place. Surprisingly enough. So I tightened up the clamp here, holding the front one, tightened up the clamp on the back one, got the choke cables installed. Gonna start routing all the things here that we had to take off. Get the airbox boots back on. I did the same on this side. Got the choke cable installed, tightened the clamp down here, installed the throttle cables. I still need to tighten the bolts up on those. But I'll get this thing assembled. We'll put the tank on it and see how she runs. We got everything installed and the bike actually runs pretty good. Except for that, it's a fuel leak. So I need to track down what that hose is going to. Because the way it runs seems to be fine, but for some reason there's fuel overflowing somewhere. So we'll figure that out. Yeah, hopefully it's not a float bowl overflow, because if that's the case, that means I got to pull the entire carburetors back out and figure that one out. So we'll see. Good news slash bad news. It's not a carburetor issue, so we don't have to take it apart, but oh, I can't even see it up underneath here. There is a fuel pump. You can just see it right there. That round, sorry about the focus. That kind of round looking piece, right? Right in there. Let me see if I can point to it. Right there. That is the fuel pump. And that is leaking. So, that's probably an internal issue with the fuel pump and I have to replace it. It doesn't look like it's gonna be fun to get to. So in the meantime, I'm going to get the rest of the bike together here and change these tires out. And we'll be done with it until I get a hold of the owner and find out what he wants to do with that fuel pump. I tapped on it a little bit with a screwdriver and I don't know if it made it better or worse or the same. It's still leaking. The bike runs great now. So I'll do the tires and I won't subject, oh, the light's terrible. I won't subject the YouTube viewers to the tires on this. Pretty straightforward. I've done tires before. But that's the state of this project for today. And we'll come back to it tomorrow or whenever after that, because I don't want to end up making a 2-hour video here. So, thank you very much for watching. Get out there and find your adventure. Adios.